Hey, where do you think you're going?
I need my fluids, Dad.
Oh, yeah. The obligatory slushy stop.
They have them in there, right?
That or something worse for you. Do you have money?
Yeah.
Okay, well, quick in and out, because we got to get home.
All right.
Get the fuck down or I'll blow your fucking head off! Get the fuck down! No! This is your man! This is your man! Yeah, Billy!
You can do this.
Get your gun! Do this or you're not one of us! Do it! Give me the gun! Let's go!
Nick!
I'll be home as soon as I can.
Jesus! You fucking kidding me?
Wait a minute.
In the opening scene, we are introduced to Nick and Helen, who lead a fulfilling life with their two sons. Brendan, the elder sibling, is passionate about hockey, while Lucas is more sensitive and enjoys artistic pursuits. Over time, Brendan refines his hockey skills, earning his family's pride by being recognized as the best player on his high school team. Nick Hume, a businessman based in North Carolina, enjoys a happy family life. Occasionally, Brendan and Lucas engage in playful banter, with their disagreements primarily arising from their age difference and distinct personalities. Despite this, they maintain a close bond and deep affection for one another. Brendan has now progressed to a professional career as an NHL ice hockey player and has a game scheduled for later that evening. Nick drives him to the game, where Brendan delivers an outstanding performance that excites Nick. On their way home, Brendan shares his intention to move to Canada to further his hockey career, a plan that Nick fully supports, trusting in his son's talent and determination. As they pass through a high-crime neighborhood, they become alarmed when two cars begin swerving dangerously nearby. Eventually, their vehicle runs out of gas, prompting them to stop at a gas station. While Brendan goes inside to purchase drinks, Nick takes the opportunity to inform his wife about Brendan's future aspirations. Tragically, thugs arrive at the store with the intent to rob it and fatally shoot the owner. The gang operates under a chilling rule that requires every new member to kill someone before being accepted. Unfortunately, Brendan becomes the target. The new gang member hesitates and shows clear signs of fear but ultimately follows through with the commander's orders, resulting in Brendan's death. This traumatic event leaves Nick in shock. As the gang escapes, he manages to ambush Brendan's attacker, knocking him down and removing his mask. However, the assailant retaliates with a punch before fleeing but is subsequently struck by a car. Nick rushes to his son and takes him to the hospital. Helen and Lucas arrive shortly thereafter, only to be met with the devastating news of Brendan's passing. Words cannot adequately express their anguish. The following day, during a police lineup, Nick identifies the assailant, a 23-year-old named Joe. They hold Brendan's funeral on a rainy and somber day, with their grief weighing heavily upon them. The parents find it difficult to find solace as memories of Brendan replay in their minds, leaving Lucas in tears whenever he reflects on his brother's vibrant life. Helen strongly urges Nick to take all necessary measures to ensure that the perpetrator receives a life sentence before he has the chance to engage with law enforcement. The next day, Nick meets with Detective Wallace and the district attorney, where he becomes infuriated upon learning that the district attorney intends to accept a plea deal for a reduced sentence due to insufficient evidence for a trial. His frustration deepens with the revelation that the gas station lacks surveillance cameras, resulting in no documentation of the incident. Nick's anger intensifies upon discovering that Brendan's murder was part of a rite of passage for Joe to join the gang. Subsequently, the judge calls him to testify at the pre-trial hearing regarding Joe's involvement in Brendan's murder. However, he declines, stating that he could not see the assailant's face due to the darkness. This refusal astonishes everyone present, leading to the dismissal of the case and Joe's release from custody. As Joe exits, he reluctantly extinguishes his cigarette and is met by the gang, who applaud him and invite him to join their ranks. Unbeknownst to them, Nick is closely observing their movements. Joe is rewarded with cash and a prostitute as part of his initiation into the gang. Disillusioned by the legal system, Nick is later seen searching for a weapon that night. He informs his family that Joe's release was due to the lack of evidence. Claiming he left something at work, he approaches Joe. When Joe emerges from the building, he is taken aback to find Nick waiting for him. In a moment of rage, Nick confronts him. As Joe fights for his life, Nick drives away and discards the bloody weapon. Upon returning home, Helen becomes distressed upon seeing his injured hand and rushes to fetch a bandage. While Nick showers, they both succumb to tears, grappling with the reality that he has become both a killer and a victim. In the meantime, Billy pays a visit to his superior, Bones, who oversees the entire gang. Billy presents the proceeds from the gas station robbery, however, Bones reprimands him for the amount being short and subsequently dismisses him. At the gang's hideout, where methamphetamine is produced, one of Billy's associates, Bodie, informs him of Joe's death, leaving Billy both shocked and furious.
What? Somebody fucking tell me what the fuck is going on?
What? Somebody stuck him. He's dead.
You're lying. So who fucking did it?
It wasn't a cutting match, man. I would know about it.
When one of us gets killed, we don't make the paper. But the son of a senior VP of Starfish Capital? Whoa, wait.
Later, Detective Wallace arrives at Nick's office to discuss Joe's demise. Nick pretends to be unaware of the situation and inquires about the cause of death. Wallace observes the bandage on Nick's hand and grows suspicious, contemplating the possibility that Nick may be involved in an act of retribution. In a separate setting at their regular pub, the gang raises their glasses in tribute to Joe, whom they consider a loyal member. At that moment, Billy enters and admonishes them for their perceived disrespect towards Joe. Redirecting the conversation back to business, they begin discussing rival gangs that might seek to target Joe for retribution. The discussion takes a significant turn when one gang member reveals that his sister witnessed a man in a suit on the night of Joe's murder. She later corroborates her sighting after recognizing Nick's photograph in the newspaper. Meanwhile, Nick is seen on the street re-bandaging his hand, unaware that Bodie, a gang member, is tracking him while Billy observes from a distance. Just as Bodie prepares to shoot Nick, he manages to disarm him using his suitcase. This prompts Billy and his gang to open fire in the middle of the street, inciting panic among bystanders. In an effort to escape, Nick flees into a narrow alley as the gangsters close in from all sides. Billy seizes every opportunity to shoot at Nick, forcing him to abandon his bag to evade capture. Nick seeks refuge in a building while being relentlessly pursued by the gang. Ultimately, he finds himself in a parking garage, where he activates several car alarms to create confusion. Despite their continued pursuit, Nick reaches the top floor of the structure, where a confrontation ensues with one of the gang members. As the vehicle reverses, it careens through the multi-story parking structure. Nick narrowly escapes just in time, but the gangster falls to his death during the incident. Following this event, Nick receives a call from his wife, informing him that Lucas is missing. Meanwhile, Detective Wallace arrives at the crime scene and learns that the victim is associated with the same group as Joe, leading her to suspect Nick's involvement. Nick eventually locates Lucas at the site of Brendan's death. Lucas, visibly distressed, confronts his father, who is preoccupied with Brendan's situation and overlooks Lucas's concerns. After a tense discussion regarding the need to return home for safety reasons, Lucas ultimately makes it home safely. Helen embraces Lucas and urges him not to leave home in such a manner again. The following day, Bodie visits Nick's office to return the suitcase he dropped during their earlier confrontation. As security personnel escort him away, Bodhi ominously remarks that Nick has the right to know how he will meet his end. Upon opening the suitcase, Nick discovers that a family photo has been crossed out, indicating that the mobster intends to eliminate his entire family. Infuriated by this revelation, Nick decides to call Billy's number found within the suitcase. Billy informs Nick that he has effectively placed a death sentence on his family. In response, Nick immediately contacts his home to advise his wife and Lucas to stay indoors. He then reaches out to Detective Wallace, expressing his concerns and requesting additional support. Upon returning home, Nick secures all the windows, leaving his family confused and anxious. Shortly thereafter, Detective Wallace arrives and confronts Nick about the turmoil he has caused, which has jeopardized his family's safety. The detective urges him to confess to the murder, assuring him that law enforcement will continue to protect his family, but he declines. Later that night, while the rest of his family sleeps, Nick is awakened by a car alarm outside. He discovers the brutal murder of 2 officers and, in a swift turn of events, encounters intruders inside his home, leading to a violent confrontation. In a brutal act, Billy swiftly shoots Helen, Lucas, and Nick. Remarkably, Nick survives and is hospitalized for several days, consumed by remorse over the loss of Lucas and Helen. While Helen succumbs to her injuries, Lucas remains in critical condition. Upon learning this, Nick visits Lucas and finds his son in a coma, expressing his regret for not being a better father. Shortly thereafter, Detective Wallace is astonished to discover that Nick has escaped through a window. Returning home, he finds it has become a crime scene. The following day, he goes to the bank to withdraw all his funds. With assistance from his colleagues, Nick successfully locates the gang's hideout. At a cafe, he inquires about the gang while placing cash on the bar, but the bartender dismisses him and ridicules him. In a fit of rage, Nick assaults the bartender and another patron who attempts to intervene. Through this confrontation, he learns both Billy's location and Bone's address for acquiring weapons. At Bone's residence, Bone initially exhibits disinterest but quickly changes his stance upon seeing Nick's bag of cash. Nick selects several weapons, including a shotgun and a revolver loaded with ammunition. Before he departs, Bone reveals that Billy and Joe are his sons and acknowledges Nick's intention to kill Billy. Bone assures him that he will not pose any threat, allowing Nick to leave without further conflict. Back at home, Nick inspects and prepares the firearms. He shaves his injured head and goes through Brendan's belongings, discovering the jacket Brendan wore on the day of his death, which he puts on before heading to the gang's headquarters. He locates their hideout down the hall and bursts through the door with his shotgun, catching the mobster inside off guard. The thug is stunned, believing Nick to be dead. Nick places a gun at the man's throat and instructs him to call Billy. Realizing that Nick is still alive, Billy hears the gunshot as Nick eliminates the gangster. Bone meets with his eldest son, Billy, to express his concerns about the escalating situation and advises him to halt any aggressive actions against Nick. In a shocking turn of events, Billy responds by brutally killing his father. Simultaneously, Nick arrives at the gang's hideout, resulting in a violent confrontation.
I'm gonna kill you, son of a bitch!
After neutralizing most of the gang members, he confronts Billy directly. During a tense shootout that leaves both men injured, Billy taunts Nick, suggesting he is becoming like the very criminals they oppose. With tears in his eyes, Billy witnesses Nick retrieve another weapon from his pocket and ultimately kills him before returning home. While awaiting his own fate, Nick watches an old family video. Detective Wallace arrives to inform him that Lucas has awakened from his coma but expresses concern about Lucas's future without parental guidance. Overwhelmed by the trauma they have all experienced, Nick feels an even deeper sorrow for what lies ahead for Lucas. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.